Hello YouTube, it's me, it's Michael B. Thank you so much for checking out today's video, and for those of you who've been waiting on some good news on the Arcade1Up front, well, this video doesn't have that, but it does have some exciting news for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 fans, as a new way is available now to play it and play it online. And what does this mean with the relationship between Marvel, Capcom, and Arcade1Up? Well, I'm going to tell you about it right after this. So that's right, guys. During today's Nintendo Direct, we've got a brand new announcement about a Marvel vs. Capcom Arcade Fighting Collection that's going to be available relatively soon that frees Marvel vs. Capcom 2. However, this isn't the first time that it's been freed for those Arcade1Up fans, and the question is, where does this leave Arcade1Up and Marvel vs. Capcom 2? But before we get into that, I want to say thank you so much, everybody, for checking out the video. Guys, I always appreciate the support. If this is your first time to the channel, you like what you see, go ahead, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, all that YouTube jazz. So I want to take you back to about 2 summers ago. During EVO, a huge announcement was made by Arcade1Up, as they have done something that was actually monumental in the fighting game community and the home arcade space. They freed Marvel vs. Capcom 2 after many years of inactivity. So you are now finally able to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 again and online against people. However, it was strictly through the Arcade1Up release. So what we got was this cabinet right here that featured unique art that was based off the PlayStation 2 home console release. As you know, it doesn't factor on the original. It did have a pretty okay, accurate arcade marquee with some minor changes, and it came in a weird Marvel midway form factor instead of the traditional Capcom form factor, as this would traditionally be found in a Dynamo cab or a Big Blue type cab. Instead, we got this in a midway form factor, which was an interesting choice. Now, when this release came out, it was kind of panned by a lot of people because the online wasn't exactly ready by the time it came out, which really killed a lot of people. There was a lot of FOMO marketing based around it, that it was going to be a limited release, so people felt they had to jump on the pre-order right away. Yeah, there was a lot of negativity around this order, and especially when the online did eventually come out months after, it wasn't the gameplay experience that people were hoping it was going to be, as it didn't feature rollback, and people were pretty unhappy about the experience. I mean, some of the backgrounds weren't accurate. It just wasn't up to snuff where people expected it. Flash forward to just this past year, Arcade1Up are back again, this time releasing another Marvel vs. Capcom cabinet, this time with X-Men 97 branding. So moving even farther away from trying to recreate the iconic arcade, it still has that, iconic midway shape, which has nothing to do with this cabinet. This time they went with complete tie-in art with the Mortal Kombat X-Men 97 show that's currently on TV, but it is the Marvel vs. Capcom game. So a couple details here. You're going to notice that the games list are going to be very similar with another games list that you're going to see in a minute. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 1, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men Children of the Atom, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems. Of course, these last two console games, what an abomination, shouldn't have been there. And I always point this out. It blows my mind that they never put the arcade Punisher game on this. And it was one of the big things that held me back. I mean, that was one of the best things about the Marvel Superheroes cabinet in the first place, was it that it actually had that Punisher arcade beat 'em up, one of the best arcade beat 'em ups of all time. But we were told that they never wanted a gun game or a game like that to be associated with Marvel going forward, so Arcade1Up couldn't provide it to us. Keep that in mind. So these are the only possible ways in the last little while, either through the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 Direct Cab or this Marvel vs. Capcom 2 Deluxe Cab with X-Men 97 branding, that you are actually able to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 outside of, illicit means, something like Fightcade or something like that. That is, until today. Today is a day in the gaming world that gamers rejoice. We got a new Nintendo Direct with some really exciting news, such as this right here, which absolutely won my heart, was the HD 2D remake of Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest 3, plus we're also getting Dragon Quest 1 and 2 as well, so that's super freaking exciting. There was also some really cool Nintendo Switch Online news as Metroid Zero Mission is coming to the Game Boy Advance expansion pack, plus we're getting a mature 17 plus Nintendo 64 section. The minute this came up, I immediately thought of Conker's Bad Fur Day. It wasn't that. We're getting one of my childhood games, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, a game I've never ever beat, so I'm excited to get back into that one. And we're also getting Perfect Dark, so, you know, the unofficial GoldenEye sequel that a lot of people look at it as. We're getting that game to play as well, as long as online multiplayer. So a lot of fun coming to Nintendo Switch Online Plus membership owners. But probably the news that most home arcade fans were excited to see, or arcade enthusiasts, was the announcement of Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, which of course is going to feature all the games we just talked about that you can find on the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and X-Men 97 cabs. You're going to be able to play them all here online against other people, including Marvel vs. Capcom 2, freed Marvel vs. Capcom 2, this time outside of an Arcade1Up. You can now play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as well as all these other great fighting games with an arcade controller through your Switch, Steam, whatever other way you want to play it. This is an awesome thing for people that don't want to be stuck just to an arcade cabinet, or you want to play on your AtGames Legends Ultimate through BYOG or hooking up your PC, however you want to play it, through a multicade. However you do it, you can now do it through an official licensed release with online support. So good job, Capcom. This is actually really crazy news. There it is, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 freed. A lot of people thought they'd never see the day where this would be available again on consoles. And of course, unlike Arcade1Up, Marvel doesn't give a shit about the guns. They're bringing the Punisher home. This always should have been on those Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinets. The cabinet would have been a can't miss with that included, but of course, Arcade1Up done messed up. So guys, huge news. I mean, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 coming to home, being able to play this through Capcom's online servers. You bet your ass they're going to have rollback. It's going to be a much better experience than playing online through the Arcade1Up servers. Now you can do it, and of course, at a fraction of the cost. Compare that to paying, $500 to $600 for an Arcade1Up cab. Now you can buy it for probably $40 it's going to cost when it comes out. That's what all the other fighting collections cost when they first came out. If you have your own fight stick or arcade control stick, you can either play through your systems or through your PC if you're so inclined to do it that way. If you want to play at a multicade, you can also do it. But what does this mean for Arcade1Up? Like, where does that leave them? Ever since John D left Arcade1Up, the question has been, where are Arcade1Up and Capcom in their relationship? John D, of course, coming from Capcom, huge part of that relationship. Now we're seeing Capcom work with other companies to produce competing home arcade cabinets, not just with their games on them, but also with their titles and namesakes displayed directly on the cabinets, adorning the themes. Where does that leave Arcade1Up and Capcom? Are they done? Well, I mean, realistically, to answer that question, no, I don't think that they're done. I mean, obviously, as long as Arcade1Up are meeting their contractual obligations with Capcom, they still have a relationship. I mean, they just released that X-Men 97 cab, so, I mean, the relationship still has to be somewhat active, somewhat fresh for them to do that. So they're not done, but maybe it's not as exclusive as it once was. What Arcade1Up have lost here in this news that was released today is their competitive advantage for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Prior to today's announcement, Arcade1Up was the only place that you were going to be able to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and many of these games online against other people. Now that option is out the window. No longer is there a gatekeep in order to play these games, because you can now play them on console and using the controller of your choice. So I guess the question is now, how will Arcade1Up Marvel vs. Capcom 2 sell going forward that it's now not locked behind the paywall, that the only way you can access Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in a licensed, illegal way, Fightcade, the only way that you can play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was through the Arcade1Up. Now you can play it through consoles, through PC, your own way, put it to multicades through PCs that are accessible, and play through Capcom's own online servers where the experience is going to be better. How does this fare for Arcade1Up? How successful will their Marvel vs. Capcom 2 offerings be going forward? I don't know. That's really the question here. They have definitely lost their competitive advantage just for the sake of the only way to play it was through them. So anyways, guys, that's my take on the news that Capcom have released their own fighting pack, Marvel vs. Capcom, with Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and all the other Marvel vs. Capcom fighting games, and even The Punisher. The Punisher, oh man, what a kick in the dick to Arcade1Up. You said it couldn't be done, but The Punisher is back with these games where it always should have been on one of those cabs. But it's now available. This isn't the end-all, be-all, that it completely defeats any purpose with Arcade1Up selling a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cab. Of course, you want to play it the way you want to play it. Some people 100% want to play on an arcade cabinet, so that's fine for them with the Arcade1Up models. But for those people that were stuck and wanted to play it, but they were stuck behind that paywall of having to get an Arcade1Up to do so, and there was people out there, people that don't even cover Arcade1Up, like I saw a video from Dreamcast Guy, other people talking about their excitement for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 to be available again, but didn't really want to make the jump on an Arcade1Up cab. Now there's an option out there for everybody, and that's a piece of good news, but definitely Arcade1Up have now lost the interest from those people, as there's another source to play it. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of the news? Capcom releasing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in this new Marvel x Capcom Fighting Collection. What do you think it means for Arcade1Up going forward and their Marvel vs. Capcom 2 offerings? And what does it mean for you? Do you think you would still buy a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 from Arcade1Up in the future? Say, for example, if they released an XL, or are you fine with the console port? Let me know in the comments down below. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. Tell your friends about me. This is Michael B. the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time.